All right. So I know I've been away for a little bit because naturally I do what humans do, and I was out of town, living the good life, doing all that, having fun, one like most people. And before we get into our today's topic, I gotta tell you a crazy story. So when I got back, I basically lost all of my files. So yeah. So I've been trying to get those back and try to figure out, what I could save, what I couldn't save, and basically, I came to the conclusion that while some photos got saved, a lot of my documents didn't get saved. So yeah, depression hits very hard in some individuals. So it is what it is. Anyways, so now to get into the main topic matter, let me explain how we got here. So I came back naturally, so I decided to say, like, hey, let me catch up on the world. And then you know what I ended up seeing? Because the creator that I follow, some ordinary gamers, basically had left Twitter. I was like, okay. And because of that happening, I got a lot of stuff on my feed basically having like some very, anti-Indian sentiments. And so, and by you, if you read some of these comments, I was just like, it's like wow. Like, I know there's some people, like, there's some hated groups out there, and, like, India is definitely up there. I'm not even gonna pretend it's not. Okay, I've had some bad experiences myself, but as with every race, it happens. And then, so, regardless, I see these comments, I'm like, it's really this bad? Like, there's actually a blatant, like, racism problem, okay? I can't say the actual word, because, YouTube's a little iffy about that, but, so anyways, I find it to be curious because I'm just like, okay, like what really caused this? Because particularly with this country, like particularly with India, it seems like its PR has been in such the dumps for the past, like, I'm gonna say like few months. Okay, I've been seeing stories about this the Indians doing this, that, but instead of just like talking about it, let's kind of look at where some of the sentiment can come from. So before we do that, though, I gotta highlight some few of these accounts. This will be blurred for your own safety and my own mental health. Essentially, this account basically AI generates, like, I don't know, Indian man shitting in car, and it just has a whole, like, every like 5 minutes he posts something like defamatory against like Indian people. Like, it's insane to me. And so, like, I'm looking at this, I'm just like, the sentiment is really so bad to the point where, like, you know what? It was bugging me too. Now, I was talking to a friend about it. I was just like, man, it's this bad? Like, I really don't agree with it either. So, regardless of that, that's how we got here. So, anyways, back to the main topic at hand. I'm actually curious, like, what could possibly, cause people to be like this racist against a particular group of people? But what I also tend to remember is that when it comes to different stuff as well, it happens with every single like group of people. So like when COVID happened, I mean, how many Wuhan, China stuff did you see? You probably saw a lot of it. Okay, and I'm not saying jokes should be banned. What I'm saying is that what I've been seeing is not jokes. This is like people saying like, "Yo, get these." I don't know. Insert a name right here. Get these people out of here. That kind of stuff. And so, anyways. And then, of course, you have like stuff like black people. You see that stuff as well. Hell, you might shift over to whites even. So every group gets it at some point, okay? And with as bad as Twitter is, I might actually stop using it because of how much of a cesspool it is with all the other stuff. But yeah, pretty insane stuff all around when it comes to this particular issue. And right now, India's just getting the full brunt of it. But naturally, let's actually take a look though, because this is not a very cut and dry everybody hates Indians. Let's look into why people would hate them, or at least why people would strongly dislike them. So I'm going to start off with Canada in particular, because I believe that's where a lot of the controversy really comes from, because there's been a lot of Indian immigrants to Canada as of recently. So I have a little bit of a Forbes article for you guys. I'm going to pull up here. And so essentially, it says, so Indian immigration to Canada. So it says here, between 2013 and 2023, Indians immigrating to Canada rose from 32,828 to 139,715, an increase of 326%, according to the NFAP analysis. Indian enrollment in Canadian universities rose more than 5,800% in the last 2 decades, from 2,181 in 2000 to 128,928 in 2021, an increase of 126,747 students. Between 2016 and 2019, Indian international students enrolled in U.S. universities dropped by 13%, but increased by 182% at Canadian universities. Diplomatic issues between India and Canada have reduced Indian student visa approvals in the short term. So essentially, what's been going on is that Canada has been taking a lot more immigrants as of recently. And because, India is very heavily populated, has over 1 billion people by now? Probably. So naturally, that's a lot of people coming into the country. And why a lot of people take issue with this is because right now, especially with the way the economy state is in, shouldn't be taking any more immigrants than it can if it can't even support its own people, because there's unemployment rates are not really looking good right now. Housing is in the dumps. So the question is why are you taking in more immigrants when you can't even support your own people? So that's where some frustration comes from, at least in one aspect or another, which is a really big one. So an example here is that so I have a bit of a job fair. Well, this is a job fair for Tim Hortons, where essentially it's a very long lineup of people who are, they are Indian. So I'm trying to get a job at Tim Hortons. Mind you, getting a job at Tim Hortons is already hard enough as it is, because sometimes they be asking for how many years of experience to take some cash. But regardless, this actually does not help the sentiment at all, because to some people, especially in the older generation, you'll see this as, oh, they're taking our jobs, which to a degree they are. That's not denying it. But it's just they'll see it as, oh, we're taking jobs. So we got to stop these people. And you're looking at that's not entirely how it works. But yeah. So that's where we are in terms of that. But anyways, I'm getting a little off topic here. But here's the video in question, and I'll actually let you guys give your own opinion on it, or at least understand where it's coming from.
25 दिन लगातार धक्के खाने के बाद भी मैं नहीं सुधरा, क्योंकि जरूरत अपनी है। हाय गाइस, मेरा नाम निशात है और मैं अब भी कनाडा में पार्ट टाइम जॉब ढूंढ रहा हूँ। वैसे तो मैंने जॉब हंटिंग सीरीज बंद कर दी है, पर ऑफ कैमरा मैं अभी भी जॉब ढूंढ रहा हूँ। तो मुझे कहीं से पता लगा कि मेरे घर के पास वाले टिम हॉर्टन्स में जॉब फेयर लगा है। तो मैं टाइम से आधे घंटे पहले तैयार होकर निकल गया, और टोरंटो में अचानक फिर से ठंड शुरू हो गई है। जाते हुए $2 की सीवी प्रिंट करवाई। इस सीवी को मैंने अच्छी तरह अपडेट किया था ताकि जॉब मिलने के चांसेस बढ़ सकें। पर जब टिम हॉर्टन्स पहुंचा तो एक लंबी लाइन मेरा वेट कर रही थी। कुछ 100+ स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ ऑलरेडी आए हुए थे। इतनी लंबी लाइन देखकर आसपास के गोरे भी चौंक रहे थे कि भाई आखिर हो क्या रहा है। टिम हॉर्टन्स वालों ने हमसे हमारे स्केड्यूल के बारे में ब्रीफ लेकर और रिज्यूमे कलेक्ट करके हमें डिस्पर्स कर दिया और कहा कि तुम्हें
Okay, so now we have an actually established problem that people, have an issue with. So that already is one step in a direction of having some resentment towards a particular group of people. Now, what I haven't gotten into yet is the fact that when it comes to India, there is a slew of issues. All right, this video is not to go into those issues, but some quick ones is that they have their own version of rahcism down over there as well. There's also the fact of there's people who are literally dirty in the streets. It's a fact. So you don't call me racist for it. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's not a. Some people don't like living there. And also there's stuff Indian woman only trains to prevent, grapes. And you'll have a bunch of different incidents about people who have, bad experiences. Like this one example where a couple got attacked. And basically the wife was, yeah. So think about it this way, right? So you have a real issue. You see the country itself has an issue that already fuels the prejudice that's already inside one person. It goes to the next person. And so what do we have here? A recipe for hatred, really. And so just to make it even worse, so we're going to go back to the immigrants, for instance. You have this incident at Wasaga Beach where there's people who reported that people were making tents porta potties, essentially. And there's some stuff going back and forth that I was reading. Some of it apparently is misinformation. However, they had to ban the use of full tents on the beach. There's multiple eyewitnesses seeing this and that. So it's a bit messy, but what probably the probable solution is that, or that solution, the probable incident is that maybe a few people were doing it, and then people started seeing it, and then because guess what, we have the immigration issue that I just mentioned earlier, and you have the issues with within its own country. Basically, you painted a picture exactly for how people can hate a particular group, and so right now, like I said, particularly it's India right at the moment because, well, I don't know. That's just the one. That's the one in the controversy at the moment. But you see here, so we have a recipe for disaster. But there's something that I actually didn't even mention yet, which is probably the most important part. And what I really want to mention is the fact that the internet as a whole is basically a giant echo chamber when you really break it down. Let me explain. So, if you ever think about like the old days where you had like forums and stuff, you were restricted to that group of people in general. And now, instead of like, a forum restricting you, now it's just an algorithm. So say for instance, you look at like one joke or something like that about a particular group, or one joke about a community, you're going to get spammed with that same stuff. Even if you looked at it once. Same thing with YouTube. If you watch like one video, you'll start getting spammed with the same topic over and over again, because that's what the algorithm believes wants you to look at. When in reality, it's like, no, I thought this video was cool, and then now it's like you're getting spam with it. And of course, people naturally will fall for the algorithm. So imagine all this, okay? And say, for example, well, in this case, you dislike Indian people. Guess what? That's all you're going to get. Okay? That's all you're going to get. If you dislike them, you're going to get people who have a genuine, hatred. You're going to get people who dislike this and that for this and the third. And so that's what essentially happens. You're essentially pushed into like a viewpoint. So while the internet, you have vast amounts of information you have access to. However, that's not always the case. Matter of fact, actually, more recently, it's been proven that like if you're going to be pushed into a viewpoint. So unless you actively are looking outside of your own viewpoint, you're not really going to get what you're looking for. Which is why, circling back, this is why this particular, incident, or at least this particular, issue that I've been realizing is like, yeah, a lot of people are pushing their sentiments out, and you get stuck with it because guess what? You look at it once, everybody starts looking at it. So it's kind of that. That's how I see it anyway. Which is, it's kind of sad to think about, but it is the world we live in. So, essentially, to summarize, we have like real issues, and then you have like people pushing on their own worldview on these real issues and really taking away from the discussion. And so, naturally, that's where we are today when it comes to like online discourse. But particularly, I just wanted to put out Twitter because it's been hell for like the longest time, but it feels like it's been getting much worse, and I actually am trying to stay off of it way more because even my own feed, even though I try to tweak it from time to time, it still gets a bunch of garbage on it. No matter what I do with it, it feels like I have to start from scratch and just do it all over again. But anyways, yeah. But that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today, and so naturally, hopefully people actually try to focus on the actual issues at hand, like, the immigration problems and stuff like that, because those are very real issues that need to be talked about. That's the real stuff people need to focus on, because it's like, yeah, you shouldn't be taking in more people when you can't even afford to house your own people. That's just a logical answer. That's not racist. That's like racist. That's actually like a problem that needs to be fixed. So, yeah. And also, I just want to make it clear, like, you can say your jokes, okay? Jokes are not bad, but, like, there's a difference between a joke, okay? And, like, dissing a whole people, okay? If you want to say, hello, I'm Raja from tech support, that's funny because, well, it happens pretty often. It's kind of absurd that it happens, okay? However, if you want to say, like, yo, can we get these, like, street shitters out of my country? That's not really a joke. You see how there's like a massive difference between the delivery. So it's like, yeah, I'm not saying ban jokes, but like, listen, okay, if you're telling me like all speech is good speech, you're lying to me and you're lying to yourself. But anyways, that's enough out of me for today. So if you enjoyed this local discussion, I would appreciate it if you would leave a like down below. Like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm a bit out of practice because I've been away for like a little bit, so my apologies. But anyways, ciao.